In the heat of a late summer day, I opened the front door of the Dallas Morning News and began my first day on the job. It feels like that happened 30 minutes ago. My plan was to stay until I got bored, maybe a year, then find a more profitable career. But I never got bored and the years passed like trains. That day was 30 years ago. Actor Chuck Norris, Dallas Morning News staff writer Alan Peppard and director Michael Preece on a location shoot for Walker, Texas Ranger. Dallas Morning News staff writer Alan Peppard takes a swing at actor and martial arts star Chuck Norris in 1997. As host of The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson was the master of timing. He knew how to interview guests and he knew when to leave the stage. After 30 years, he took his final bow. Now, I will do the same. This is my final column as a staffer at the news. Inaugural boots. When I started in 1987, I was just old enough to legally order a cocktail. I had yet to meet my wife, Jennifer, who was too young to do the same. Our daughters wouldn't arrive until the next millennium. In 1988, I got an assignment that ended any hints of boredom. My boss, Lennox Samuels, sent me to Washington, D.C., to cover the inauguration of George H.W. Bush. Like everyone in D.C., I wanted to attend the Texas State Society's Black Tie and Boots Gala at the Washington Hilton. But I got to the party too late. The main ballroom was full with thousands of guests and the fire marshal sent me to the overflow room. There, a couple hundred people stood and waited for Jerry Jeff Walker to perform. I was in front of the stage with his wife, Susan, whom I knew. Before he could play a note, Walker came over to us. "They told me not to play," he said. Then a man took the mic and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States." And there he was. Bush 41 used us as the warm-up crowd while I stood about 5 feet away from him. He pulled up his pant leg to show his cowboy boots with elaborate stitching of a green cactus. "I ought to make him stand on his head and show you those boots," said Barbara Bush. A few months later, I got to know the president's son when he moved to Dallas. Like all journalists, I had to learn that his name was not George Jr. It was George W. Hagman and Company. In that era, I befriended Larry Hagman, who then was playing J.R. Ewing in the original run of the TV show Dallas. If you were friends with him, you were also friends with his Swedish-born wife, Marge. They were inseparable. Dallas TV star Larry Hagman and Alan Peppard in 1987. Alan Peppard with Dallas TV star Patrick Duffy at the Winspear Opera House in 2017, but in 1997, when the Dallas cast returned to film a reunion show called War of the Ewings, Hagman was alone. On a weekday morning, I sat between him and his TV nemesis, Academy Award winner George Kennedy. In front of us, the crew prepared to shoot a scene in the lodge just off Northwest Highway. Cameras and lights had taken over half of the high-end gentlemen's club. When the other half of the building opened for lunchtime business, topless dancers strolled past us to begin their shifts. Kennedy won an Oscar playing a tough prisoner in Cool Hand Luke, but he was startled by the semi-nudity, happy, but startled. "In most of my movies, they just put me with the dog or the horses behind," he said. I chuckled. But with Hagman, I sensed marital disequilibrium. "Where is Marge?" I asked. "Oh, she's flying in today from LA, he said. "Wait, there she is." I looked up and saw her blonde hair as she walked through the door with a big smile. She had left her famous husband unattended in a topless club for almost a full half-hour. The president on parenting. Knowing the President of the United States was never part of my plan. It just happened. When my twin girls were born, I got a handwritten letter in a White House envelope. It was from another father of twin girls. The stationery was embossed with the words, "The President. Always tell your girls you love them, every day, even as teenagers," wrote George W. Bush. In a 2001 personal note, President George W. Bush offered parental advice to Dallas Morning News staff writer Alan Peppard. There were other bits of fatherly wisdom, but the particular one is something I try to adhere to. The letter is one of my most treasured possessions. And yet, like any American, I have my right to disagree with the president. After his second term, he returned to Dallas. He was here just a few days when I had lunch with a friend at Goff's Hamburgers. During the meal, I made a highly critical comment about a particular Bush policy. Which one I can't recall. The next day, I was at a luncheon at the Hilton in Natalie when Bush 43 arrived as a surprise guest. Accompanied by Secret Service, he walked through a crowd of about 1,500 applauding people. When he saw me, he came over and gave me a warm, sincere hug. "Hello, Alan," he said in my ear, and then went to his table. One hears about the hypnotic aura of a president. It was there. I floated on a cloud for a month. And I still can't remember my critical comment. The last word in 30 years. I've had thousands of bylines in the Dallas Morning News. In 1991, I was there when about 2,000 people showed up at the Anatoly to see Oscar-winning actress Greer Garson receive the TACA Silver Cup Award. At 82, she lived in a penthouse at 3525 Turtle Creek and kept a very low profile. "I'm so touched you are all here," she said, "but you can see me most any day at the Tom Thumb in Turtle Creek Village. That will be me. I've always lived in Dallas and I plan to stay. Look for me at the Tom Thumb in Snyder Plaza or around the corner at Burger House on Hillcrest. The stall closest to the register is mine. I make Jason Garrett sit at one of the tables." Alan Peppard and Dallas Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett at Burger House on Hillcrest. Jason Garrett, head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, during a TV interview with Meredith Land and Alan Peppard at Valley Ranch in Irving. I'm reminded of the words of CNN's Atlanta-based founder Ted Turner. As a sailing captain who won the America's Cup, his brashness shocked members of the New York Yacht Club. As a businessman who tried to buy a TV network, his brashness shocked broadcasting's old guard. They called him the mouth of the South. As I leave the news, I can only borrow the words Turner wants for his epitaph. "I have nothing more to say.